This is a small piece of oak burl, and what I want to do is cast this in resin and make a votive candle holder out of it, okay? So, because I'm a tightwad, I don't want to spend any more money on resin than I have to, so I want to keep the resin pour on this down to the absolute necessity, okay? And how do I do that? I'm going to make a custom form for it, and I start off with a base plate. This is going to be my glue block, and so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mount this on the lathe. And I want to glue on my piece of wood. And I want to situate it on here, you know, how I want it. And I'm going to use my glue, my glue gun to do this. This is my standard glue gun. And I'm just going to put some a nice amount of glue on here, and you don't have to worry about it being really good because you're not going to turn this. You don't have to really worry about it being stuck on here well, because you're going to have epoxy resin holding it all together. This is just to get started. Bring up the tailstock and then put some glue on here. I want to add glue in these cracks. Okay, that should do it. Now we're going to let that dry. This is what we're going to use to make our form. And I get this at the Dollar Tree, and it costs $1. There are 2 of these sheets right here in the package, which cut really easily, and they glue up nice. You want to make sure that the slick side, not the rough side, is in toward where the resin is going to be poured. Okay, it makes the mold come off easier. Okay, so now I've got this on here, and this glue is pretty much dry. Now I'm going to just round this piece out, okay? Okay, what I want you to notice here is back here on my glue block, I've cut a little ridge, and that's where the plastic is going to get glued to. And also I want you to notice that the piece itself right here is smaller than this ledge right here, okay? That's so when I glue this plastic on here, there's a little tiny bit of room between the plastic and the piece so that resin can squirt down in there, okay? Not a lot, because I'm interested in saving resin, but just enough. And so what I want to fill with resin is this pocket right in here. And then when I hollow this out, okay, I'll have nice resin all the way around. I'll have some clear resin up here and down the side. And when I put my votive candle in there, it'll shine through the resin. Now, don't worry if you get a crack like this over here from your piece in your glue block, because that resin will go down in there, okay? And this resin is gonna absolutely cement this piece to this right here, so it won't be holding just with this glue melt. Your resin will be holding your piece onto your glue block also, because all this will be on the glue block, okay? So at this point in time right now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna glue on our plastic form. Once again, we're gonna use our glue gun. And you cut a piece of your plastic off, and here again, make sure that the slick side goes in. And what we're gonna do is just glue it right on here, just like this. You can see I've left it high enough where I can pour, okay? And you can see that it's clear, so you can see the epoxy gets in, all the cracks and everything. And it's a real simple process. This technique will work with small stuff all the way up to huge stuff, okay? Because you can glue these pieces together, okay? If this is not long enough, this piece is not long enough to go all the way around something, you just add them together and glue up the seams. You're going to see how I do that. Lock the spindle. I'm going to start right here. And be careful, you don't want to burn yourself, because you know this glue is hot. And what I'm going to do is just put a spot right there to start. I hold it with my thumbnail because my thumbnail has no pain sensors in it. If I get a little glue on my thumbnail, it doesn't hurt. And it doesn't take but a second. Okay, that's glued on there. You can see that's on there nice and tight. So now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to rotate this a little bit. I'm going to lock my spindle again. And I'm going to hit this edge right here. Okay. I'm going to rotate my spindle a little bit. And I'm going to come up here and I'm going to put a tack right in here. And I'm going to hold that right on the ridge just like before. Hold that down. Okay, you see what's going on here? I'm going to do this all the way around. You want to make sure you get all of the cracks filled. You don't want any resin squirting out the bottom. Okay, see that? Piece of cake. I'm going to lock my spindle again. Once again, I'm going to put a little dab to spot weld this right here. Keeping this right on that groove, pulling it tight. Right like that. Now I'm just going to fill in the cracks right here. Let me assure you, this is going to hold that resin in there just fine. Okay? So I'm going to hold that a second. Let that glue cure a little bit. As I said earlier, this will, no matter what size burl you're doing, it'll work. I have a 5-gallon pressure pot, so I can do up to a 12-inch bowl. And my last video, or one of my earlier videos, my second epoxy resin video, I did a 12-inch bowl. And I just used pieces of this plastic right here. And I just cut these and I glued them right onto the bolt, right onto the burl, around the pockets where I wanted to put the epoxy resin. And I'll show you that technique here in just a second. Okay, I'm going to let that cool, and I'm going to get my scissors. Okay, we're going to let that cool a second, because the next thing we're going to do is we're going to hot glue this seam right here. We want to make sure that we get that completely filled in. We don't want any epoxy leaking out that seam, okay? And the way we're going to do that is just like we did before. We're going to start right here. We're going to squirt a little bit down in there. Just like that. And now we're going to press this right in with our fingernails, or use a screwdriver or a skew or something. I use my fingernails. They're handy. And I'm just letting that pressing put some pressure on it. You want to squirt that glue out the edge there, and you can see that it's already glued up. And I'm going to fix this right here, get this all nice and sealed. We don't want any resin coming out of that. I'm going to use this screwdriver. I don't want to get my fingers burnt. Okay. Want to make sure I come back and fill this all in right here from this where it overlaps, because I don't want any resin coming out this seam right here. So I'm just going to seal that up. And you know, just use your common sense when you're doing this. Looking good. Okay, as you can see, we have a nice form right here. Lots of room to pour epoxy. It'll get down in this pocket here where it's exactly where I want it. There won't be any wasted in places like this. It'll be in here, none in here. So I've absolutely been as frugal as I can with my epoxy. And as I said, you can build a form like this no matter what size your piece. Okay, so here's the finished form. You can see my piece of wood down in there, ready to go. I've got lots of room to pour in the epoxy resin, but there'll be none wasted. This will make a great votive candle holder. Or probably you could just put a regular candle in it too. Okay, so we're going to pour this, which will be the subject of another video. And when it comes out of the pot, we'll throw it on the lathe and turn it. Okay. So I hope that helps you. If you have any questions, you can contact me. And until next time, this is Wood Pops. See you in the next video. Thanks for watching.